Hello and welcome to another edition of the Cathedral Check-In. My name is Donald Hunt and I'm the Director of Music here at Christ Church Cathedral in Victoria, BC, which is also on the lands of the Lekwungen-speaking people. I'm here with Assistant Director of Music, Mark MacDonald, and Christina Hutton, who's a freelance harpsichordist and organist and also a doctoral candidate at UBC. So we thought it would be a good idea today to just talk a little bit about the upcoming organ recital series here at Christ Church Cathedral, which is different from most years. Most years we're allowed to have an audience in the cathedral, but this year it will be live streaming only, and you can watch it at home beginning this Saturday, June 12th at 7 p.m. So given this environment of live stream concerts, which we've been doing for the last 18 months or so, would either of you like to comment on what that feels like to play a recital to effectively nobody in the room? Mark, why don't you start?
Yeah, well, it feels really different than having a live audience. I think back to just last year, a year ago at this time, we were actually doing recorded programs for the Organ Festival Canada. And in that case, it was even more disconnected from our audience because it was like being in the recording studio, doing a take and fixing things and having everything filmed and then edited at the end. So this year, that's not what we're doing at all. Everything is live. It's all happening in real time. And yet there's no energy from the audience there. So it really is kind of a strange feeling to like play through your hour-long program and then just sort of look at the camera at the end. So it's definitely a weird feeling. Do you find the same thing, Christina?
Yeah, for sure. I was listening actually to an online concert from the UK in which the performer commented that you're live streaming, you have to figure out what to do with the pauses, because when you're in a concert hall, the silence feels alive because there are all these people there. And in a streaming situation, of course, you don't get that kind of a feedback. But I don't know. I found also that there are lots of ways that this allows a different sort of connection with the audience, and live commenting and all of that kind of thing, which is fun in its own way.
Yeah, people don't exactly pass notes on their programs around an in-person audience, do they? So yeah, we've got the benefit of the Facebook chat, so you can put all of your applause comments in there as you're listening. So this year, we're concentrating kind of lightly our three concerts on the French organist composer Marcel Dupré, who lived from 1886 until 1971, and he was the organist titulaire at Saint-Sulpice in Paris and the director, eventually, of the Paris Conservatory. So I asked all of us to see if we could pepper our programs with a couple of his works to highlight the anniversary of his death, of course, because he died in 1971. Christina, maybe you could tell us a little bit about how you structured your program, given this brief.
Yeah. So my head immediately went to his work as a teacher, and to his collection of chorale settings. And that might be a little bit surprising coming from a French organist, because typically we associate chorales with Bach and with the Lutheran tradition and so on. But in fact, many of those hymn tunes that perhaps in most cases anyway, originated in Germany, became popular all over Europe. And also, I think many of the ones I'm including in my program will be familiar also in English settings, in many, many English hymnals. So I thought about that collection, and that sort of prompted me to think about the whole tradition of playing hymn tunes on the organ, and what a rich tradition that's been. And also, I think the ways that I think many people have been missing singing hymns in the past year and a half. So I thought that I would sort of run with that and put together a collection of hymn settings, sort of alternating simpler settings where the melody is very clear, and more complicated settings where the composer is working with the melody in interesting musical ways.
Nice. And you mentioned J.S. Bach, so I'm going to take an opportunity to jump in now and talk about my program a little bit, which is Maîtrise et Maître, and it's all about Dupre's relationship with the great Johann Sebastian Bach. He did a complete cycle of Bach's organ works in 10 recitals, first in 1920, then again in 1921. So of course I'm paying homage to that by playing one of Bach's organ works, and I'm not even doing it from memory. Marcel Dupre did his cycle entirely from memory, which is just an astonishing feat. And of course, Dupre also transcribed the Sinfonia from Bach's Cantata 29. So I figured I would learn that one for this program as well. And I've also peppered it in with one of my favorite composers, Olivier Messiaen. Not very much Messiaen, just a short 5 or 6 minute piece for which Messiaen is really well known. And it's one of his first organ works, Le Banquet Céleste, which again, similar to your comment about hymn tunes and singing hymns, Christina, Le Banquet Céleste is of course about the heavenly banquet, about Holy Communion. And again, that's something that people have really, really missed in our church life over the last year or so. Mark, you're playing a whole bunch of impossible music.
well, not all of it is impossible. And actually, I'm sure you noticed in the title of the program, impossible is in quotation marks. And there's a pretty good reason for that, because these pieces are really popular and lots of people learn to play them. But the reason why we called it the art of the impossible is that there was a set of pieces that Dupre wrote when he was a young student that when he showed his teacher and was trying to get these published, his teacher being the great Charles-Marie Widor of the Widor Toccata fame, his teacher looked at these pieces and said, these pieces are impossible to play. You do not publish them. And sure enough, they've become part of like the broader organ canon, and many organ students now grow up learning these pieces. But let me tell you, they are a lot of work and a lot of practice has gone into, a lot of metronome work has gone into trying to get these all the way up to Dupre's seemingly impossible tempo markings. So my program revolves around 2 of those 3 preludes and fugues from Opus 7. And Donald, you are actually playing the other one from that collection, the middle one, number 2.
It's easy though. It's possible.
It's sort of the breather piece, isn't it? And then I've just highlighted a couple of the composers from around Dupre's sort of network. Louis Vierne, who was quite close with Dupre. They actually had a falling out later in life, but one of his beautiful pieces from the Pièce de Fantaisie, Dupre's student, Jean Alain, who very tragically died very young, but playing one of his pieces, the Variations on Jamaican. And then just totally out in left field, I'd say another virtuoso of his own time, Nicolas de Grigny, doing his Veni Creator Spiritus set of pieces. And I think in the 18th century, de Grigny probably was probably one of the great virtuosos of his moment as well. And certainly I would say that that 5-part fugue is up there with the impossible category. So, so that's my program.
And it's not totally out of left field to be doing Grigny because of course we've just had Pentecost, so it's the right time of year. And Grigny and Dupre both fall in that same lineage of organist, composer, improvisers. So yeah, and so I've got my recital when this video comes out on Friday will be tomorrow. And so I've kind of entered into the manic phase of practicing and just fretting and trying to save myself from getting embarrassed. You've got a week left, Christina, and Mark, you've got 2 weeks. What does the next week look like for you, Christina?
Well, in not too long, I'll make the trip over to Victoria, and then I have a few days that I'm really looking forward to, where I get to spend a lot of time with the organ at the cathedral, which is always one of my favorite things about recital preparation, because of course, as organists, we typically perform recitals on instruments that we don't necessarily get to play all the time. I know that's not true for you because you're playing on your own instrument, but it's really, really fun for me to get to make the short trip and to get to know more intimately a really, really beautiful instrument. So that's a bit of what my next week looks like.
Nice. And Mark, you've got home turf advantage and 2 weeks until the game. How are you preparing?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, in a lot of these pieces, well, the two Dupre pieces, the bigger ones, are new pieces for me. So I programmed them in as a postludes a couple of weeks back to sort of give myself a little trial run. And so I find in the last 2 weeks before a recital, I'm doing a lot of like recording. I like record myself just so I can listen back, so I can take it home at the end of my practice time and listen for things, and then the next day try to go back and fix that. So yeah, a lot of detailed work, a lot of work with the metronome also.
Well, thank you both so much for spending some time to talk about the upcoming organ series here at Christchurch Cathedral. The first concert is tomorrow, June 12th, Saturday at 7 p.m. And that's me playing Bach and Dupre, Maîtrise et Maître. On June 19th at 7 p.m., Christina Hutton will play Luther's Legacy, the Chorale Through the Ages. And on June 26th, Mark MacDonald, our Assistant Director of Music, plays The Art of Impossible. Looking forward to seeing you there.